And I'll try that meeting summary thing as well, which has had mixed results for us, but we can all take a look at it and laugh. um, so Paul, you can see who is here
Yep.
for attendance. And I guess the next order of business would be to approve the minutes from last month that Kristen took. And let me share those. Hopefully, oh, where's that window? There it is. Okay, can you guys all see the shared window?
Yes.
Yeah, I see it. Excuse me. Are these the minutes from the last meeting? Because I thought I
Yeah,
brought that up. Oh, it says in the March meeting. Never mind. Never mind.
yeah.
It's just reference to the March meeting.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to accomplish that tonight, though.
No, we're not, unfortunately.
Were we involved at all in the interview process?
We were not.
Yeah,
But
it
I
seemed
have,
like we were
so when we
we were
have
there.
the yeah, we can talk more about that when we get to the executive session.
Okay. We were aware of the process, but we were not.
Right.
We
Yeah.
didn't make any decisions or have much input.
Yeah, I think the most we did was we reviewed I don't know if we even reviewed the specific job posting or just some stuff that they sent us that they were going to put in it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remembered a long document that I read through that seemed like a draft.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they let us look at a draft is what I remember.
yeah. ISAC. Can we spell that out?
What are we looking at? Oh, what is that, Paul? Information sharing and I'm trying to remember.
Information Sharing and Analysis Center.
yep. Oh, it's
Thank you.
AA. All right.
Thank you.
I supported like three of those things at MITRE. I've only been retired 4 years. It's amazing to me that I've always forgotten that acronym.
It's okay.
Any other suggested corrections?
It's just a small quibble, but the word moot has two almost contradictory meanings in different contexts. So
Oh, it's down below.
it's very near the end. Yes, there we go.
What should I change it to?
I don't know. I withdraw. It's clear enough.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm okay with it.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last time.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
I think I have to abstain because I wasn't there. Last-
I think you have to vote because otherwise we don't have a quorum.
I
Well,
think four, I
I'll
think,
take it that that's the way it was. So I approved it.
okay. It sounds like we got all five, Paul. All right. Sorry, I'm only on one screen tonight, so I'm losing my windows. There we go. Okay, so Ira, we're up to public comments and questions. I guess now's another opportunity. We've got a couple more people who may be able to answer some of your questions.
Okay, so Paul, I guess you were the one who wasn't here. I was following up on my concern about the state of our software. What are we using that's legacy? If somebody has a list, what are we using that's very close to becoming unsupported? And it doesn't sound like there is a list or any kind of risk analysis out there, is what I'm hearing, at least resident in ITAC. Is that correct?
yeah, I mean, I think, yes, I think that's right. We, again, the IT function in town is distributed across a number of different groups, school, town, light department, public safety, library. I am not aware of any comprehensive IT asset inventory, or it may exist. We definitely work with managed service providers. They may have something like that they maintain for us. But I don't know that we've ever seen anything like that. My guess would be, particularly in the public safety sector, and possibly in the schools as well, and definitely in the light department, there probably is a tremendous amount of legacy hardware and software that is either end of life or nearly so. But that's not something we've ever been given. I'm not sure it's something that exists.
Well, I think without question, there's legacy systems in the town, but we also hear regular reports when we did have opportunities to talk to Dave and
Steve.
and the folks from the school. We'd get reports about, we're upgrading this, we're reinstalling this, and they're rotating through a lot of the external facing platforms, both hardware and software, on a regular basis. So I don't think you're going to find, something running Windows 95 in a classroom somewhere or something like that. It's all going to be pretty up to date. But what's running the cash registers in the cafeteria? I have no idea. That could be ancient. Who knows?
Yeah, and again, my concern is only because your longtime first and only IT manager left, and it's that whole notion of, how much knowledge went out the door with him, and maybe even with his assistant. And I'm just trying to understand the risk. That's
It's a completely fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I
right, I
mean,
got two more. Are there other citizens that want to come before me, or can I ask the next?
it's just you, Ira.
Okay. And I saw in your minutes, but let me ask the question a little more directly. My assumption is that there are other towns that run hybrid town meetings, right? And my sense is maybe there are other softwares out there that wouldn't have, Ellen tied up so significantly to make that work. And I don't know if that's your purview or someone else's. Yours being ITAC.
Can I ask what you're referring to when you say the software has Ellen tied up so significantly? Are you aware of specific problems with the software?
Okay. So here's what I heard. Okay. And I'm a town meeting member. Paul, maybe you heard similar things. The problem is that if it's all in
Christian
person,
is as well.
huh?
Kristen is as
I
well.
don't think I've heard anything specific about the software we use for hybrid meetings.
Well, I think what I was referring to, Kristen, is there has been a narrative in the argument for in-person only that the task of maintaining and carrying out a hybrid meeting is burdensome for Ellen and her team, and that part of that is managing the software. I'm guessing it's not Zoom, because we all know Zoom is pretty easy to use. So I'm guessing it's the voting software. Yes. Yeah. That was my sense as well, Ira. I thought that was kind of the narrative is, the software is too hard for her to manage, and Dave's gone, and, the IT team is understaffed. And so we need to do, in person only.
So the concern there would be with the Echo 360 point solutions stuff.
Yeah, and maybe it's the version we use. I don't know exactly what's causing it, but they're really pretty allergic to having a hybrid meeting at this point.
Paul, you were at the meeting where they discussed.
Well, I actually wasn't at the meeting where they voted to go hybrid. I wrote a letter to town meeting members saying, kind of, we should have been consulted on this, and this kind of came out of nowhere, and, went to the meeting after that to voice my desire to have the select board reconsider, and, invited town meeting members to join me in that. None of which really did. So it was pretty easy to kind of shoot me down. But yeah, I mean, I did engage on that because I felt like, the process by which this was reached was very, town meeting is Belmont's legislature, and we should have a say in, the means by which we gather and vote and everything else. And to just have the executive basically say, no, we're gonna tell you how you're gonna meet, and you don't get a say, just seemed like kind of anti-democratic to me. And my sense was, and I think the vote that Mike Widmer took at town meeting proved it, that there is actually, forget about majority support, super majority support for hybrid town meetings amongst the town meeting membership. So, but the way this special law is written that expires in 2025, and I talked to Senator Brownsberger about why it was written the way it was written. But I mean, it does in essence cede control of decision-making about this to town executives, and does not really give town legislatures, town meetings, an active role in this. So it's a little bit of a weird environment that we're in.
But it's probably temporary, and the notion that hybrid is going to go away seems a little naive, based on at least Mike Widmer's vote, right? And so then, how do we do? I didn't know who has responsibility for figuring out how we fix or how we upgrade the software to what in order to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, this is a type of thing that I think ITAC can and it should and probably can and should be helping out with. We could certainly do some research for the town on, what different systems different towns are using and, the considerations around purchasing and deployment and so on. I mean, my sense is, the IT team, the town manager's team are all pretty overworked, and they don't really have the bandwidth to dive into this particular issue. So yeah, I mean, this is something we should be raising our hands and saying we're happy to look into this and report back to you. That's what we're here for.
I have a question about, I mean, we're a committee that meets virtually. That's how we meet. We don't meet in a hybrid fashion. But is one of the larger decision-making committees like the warrant committee, do they have a hybrid process at this point in time or not?
I think so, yes. I think they do hybrid meetings, if I'm not mistaken.
I have no idea, but they would be a large committee, I think, compared to most, and they have a lot of decision making that they have to do compared to most. And maybe they don't make use. I mean, their numbers, of course, are not close to town meeting numbers, and they probably don't use a software program to make their, to count up the votes. They probably do what we do, raise the hands. That said, I mean, if they're functioning well in terms of allowing people who might not otherwise participate to participate, I mean, that's the whole argument, as I see it. You have an opportunity to discharge your responsibilities as a town meeting member, even though you might be sick at home, or you might be on a business trip, and
Yeah. Roy Epstein didn't make it to one of our town meetings because he had a prior, a vacation planned. He was out of town. If it had been a hybrid meeting, he might have said, I'll take an hour or two out of my evening and participate remotely.
And so do you have to wait to be asked by the town administration to initiate any kind of study or search on something like this?
We do not. We can do it on our own.
We have the freedom to do what we want, but we don't have the freedom to actually spend any money on behalf of the town.
You have no staff support.
Yeah.
Right.
And our research, sometimes it's acted upon and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the research that we've done over the years has been things that we've dreamed up ourselves, and they all say, "Oh yeah, we'd love to hear about that," and then basically they don't really love to hear about it.
Well, there's been a few.
Yeah, I'm being a little bit unfair.
Yeah.
I think some of the security ones have gone over better than others. I think we woke people up on some of that.
And my concern is that people are being disenfranchised on town meeting as a result of being in sort of never land here. Anyway, I'll leave that with you. And just the next one, again, this may be off the wall a little bit. So many of the functions we have are the same exact functions that other towns have. And do any of the towns use any kind of shared IT or shared processing or any of the kinds of things you see sometimes large corporations use? Again, a few towns working together. Because
you mean between the towns themselves?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like a shared service center. exactly right.
Yes and no. I mean, I think there are definitely vendors, including the vendor who hosts all of these town websites, Civics Plus, who obviously cater to the small local government marketplace. And so, most towns in Massachusetts are using shared infrastructure for their websites, but it's through a contractor. So there are definitely, in that way, yes, but it's not shared public assets, shared public resources, or just, using cloud-based resources that are being marketed and sold to them by vendors.
Yeah, it's like a company or companies that may go out and buy the same particular software system to do a particular task, but they're buying it from the same contractor, and not necessarily.
Yeah, it can be very well, I'm not sure what the right word is, awkward or challenging to federate these things across multiple towns or different organizational units, because the question always boils down to, okay, my town has this many citizens and your town has that many citizens. How should we divide up the costs? What's my tax base versus your tax base? How many properties do I have? How many properties do you have? It gets really complicated. And so
Right. And
most
then,
organizations just go it alone. Sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
right. No, I mean, that's absolutely right. And then also, like, if a bunch of towns were going to start wanting to share infrastructure like that, there'd probably have to be a state program to administer it. Probably some state level costs for security. The state owns the security costs then, and all of it, you know what I mean? So at some level, I think it probably ends up looking to the people who have to do this cheaper to just go to a contractor.
You could make that argument for all sorts of service. Starting with some of the more visible ones like fire and police. This sort of came, and this doesn't apply to larger towns and well-funded, but the smaller ones, I still don't understand why they don't do that. I mean, I came off a nice 5-day vacation on Martha's Vineyard, and Oak Bluffs has its own police department. Tisbury has its own police department. Edgartown has its own police department. For all I know, Menemsha out on the other side has its police. And I was thinking, well, is it the chief? That's it? Or, why haven't they consolidated this? But they don't. They don't.
Welcome to Massachusetts. I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
We didn't have this crap.
Yeah. This is something that's specific to New England, this hyper-local government, and no district, no multi-town school districts, or a few of them. I mean, there are a few in Massachusetts, but
that's actually where there has been some consolidation, because there are regional high schools.
And I think that's largely been done in towns with relatively small populations. They just it just made sense for them to do it that way because of the population.
That's true.
I mean, Belmont does that with special ed, right? With the lab program, and so on. So there's little bits and pieces of that, but I haven't seen anything like that for IT.
There could be a turning point at some point. There could be just a point at which towns realize, like, the savings of this, we just can't look the other way at them and start saying, listen, let's work with our neighbors and start, region, just sharing some of these services. That could definitely happen. I do think, we did a report a few years back, Ira, called 21st Century Government, that looked at, and this was probably 6 years ago or something, ways that the town could leverage technology to, improve the quality of services that it delivers to residents. And, I mean, it might be worth updating that, because so much has changed since then in terms of, what technology is capable of. But I do think that there are some, substantial savings that are out there if the town chooses to look for them. Particularly, around some of the work that goes on at like town hall and stuff. Probably not DPW and the light department and stuff like that,
Sure.
but yeah. But you do need someone with a vision and a budget to lead change like that. And those have been two things that I think in Belmont have been kind of lacking.
Yeah, and again, the reason for my question is, how hard is it going to be to rebuild RIT's infrastructure or people infrastructure? And is that going to start forcing towns to move together? But I'll take a look at that 21st century thing. But thank you.
Yeah, I'll share it with you, Ira, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I think there's going to be a lot of resistance in some cases. It'll be a natural fit, but a lot of these decisions about, how does the school do its business? It used to be iPads, now it's Chromebooks. These are decisions that differentiate the towns. Like, Belmont is always proud of its schools for good reason. And to say, oh, we're just going to do whatever Watertown does. Yeah, I think there'll be some pushback from that.
Okay. I can
not to pick on Watertown, but you know what I mean. It's just
no, I understand
they have their
that.
own. They have different priorities than we do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm on the record picking on Watertown.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ira.
All right. Well, we're still in open. Go ahead. What was that?
Nice for a member of the public to be here. This is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to see you, Ira. Thank you.
So while we're still in open meeting, I'll talk about the discussion I had with the light board. It went well. I gave a little history of ITAC and some of the things that we were already doing with the light board, and I brought up the fact that we had made this proposal that they be a one of our sponsors, if you will, and that they appoint at least one, possibly two members, and that we were in discussion. We hadn't figured out exactly what we thought it should look like yet. I was hoping to take a vote on it soon. Not going to do that tonight. There's not enough of us, and also in that meeting, my sense was they were getting a little bit of cold feet about why do we need to appoint? You guys are working with us, okay? You work with Robin. You seem to care about us. Why do we need to have a member appointed? Which is a fair point, and I think the reason that it came up was they asked me if I had brought this up with the select board yet, and I said, well, no, we haven't yet, because we're trying to figure out what we actually want to say to the select board. And I think their concern was that this is going to, come at the select board. And they're going to take it as the light board is trying to maybe steal something from them. And I'm inferring here, so this may all be wrong. But my sense was that they're like, it's working okay. Do we really need to do anything? They didn't tell me not to do it, but I definitely got the feeling that they did not want there to be a decision without there being some serious discussion about it with everybody involved in the room to decide if it was really a good idea. Which I think is not an unfair point, but it also meant that, okay, now I really need to socialize this with the select board, and I don't know how to do that. I mentioned that I did have a meeting. Dan and I saw Patrice a week or so ago. I'll talk more about that meeting in the executive session. But one thing I brought up with Patrice was this topic, and she said, she kind of rolled her eyes a little bit and said, well, she'll bring it up. She'll introduce it to them and make some kind of an introduction so that we can do this. I don't know anybody on the board. So
yeah,
we'll see how this goes. It wasn't clear to me whether if I sent a note to whatever the email address is, selectboard@belmontma.gov, that, how that would go over. And we're not, since we haven't decided, I'm kind of like in this chicken and egg situation of, what needs to be done first, what needs to be second. And maybe I'm overthinking it. That's a very strong possibility. That was definitely one of the things that I was criticized for as a leader at MITRE. But anyway, I wanted to bring that back here before I did anything else. So that's kind of where that meeting left off. And as a result, and given the fact that we're only 5 of us, I don't really want to get into the charter change proposal here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
I think we
answer,
really need to have more people in the room before we do that.
I mean, I think the answer to the light department is it really working well? I mean, the advantage of having appointees on the ITAC is that you have a voice, you have a hand in every meeting, that you're following, what's
Which
going on.
is what I told them. And
You
their
can bring your
response
issues
was,
before the committee, yeah.
Their response was, well, Robin can attend.
That's not the same though.
I know.
Robin can't
I
vote.
understand. I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you what the response was.
So here's the question. What are they worried about?
I think they're worried. I think they're looking at I think their concern is that there's going to be a perception. They have they described a very close working relationship with the select board, whatever that means. And I think their concern is that something about this would cause friction there, that unnecessarily. That's my sense. Again, I'm inferring from what they said. I really don't know it for certain.
I don't know if there's an appropriate way to probe that, but I'm really curious to know where that comes from, or what that's rooted in. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, because I'm struggling to even see, like, it's not like they'd have to shell out a couple $1,000s to make one of these spaces or something. Like, it's not like a cost thing, right?
Yeah. In fact, the one concern they had was that it had to be one of them, and I said, no, it doesn't have to be. It's not going to be one of you, right? You appoint somebody. You guys don't appoint yourselves to this.
I mean, they could.
I have a proposal.
They could, but
I think the problem here is that they don't understand enough about what we do and don't do to really appreciate the opportunity. And I think trying to convince them, just showing up and saying, hey, do you want this thing? They don't know what they're getting. So I think what we should do is periodically repeat the question. Now that you know us, and now that you've been involved, and so on and so forth, would you like to appoint a member? Rather than trying to push forward with trying to give them something whose value they don't understand. Because when we talked to Patrice, I could see her mind, behind her eyes, thinking of all the paperwork she was going to have to do. And I don't want to pull them along. I want the town to be convinced that this is the right thing to do. Not us convince them, but they need to believe it themselves. So let's hang back and ask the question again once a year or more, and see what happens.
I'll try to get on their agenda more often, just to talk about what's going on in their space, and maybe that will lead to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to keep after them about this work with, whoever they want to do it with, Dragos or whatever. But I do think we can't just kind of put that buck on the shelf and say, well, I hope nothing bad happens. I mean, we do need to keep after them and make sure that whatever needs to happen, whether it's acquiring an IT asset or what have you, that it happens sooner rather than later. That's that is, the stakes there are very high for this town. Very, very high. And I am not convinced that they actually adequately understand their risk.
Did you say this is a 3-member board, just like the board of the select board, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Did you
It
get
used to,
did you get any sense that a member or maybe two has sort of a nascent interest in IT, or are they all sort of afraid of it? Sorry. Or,
Oh, there's no
my,
Matt Taylor afraid of it. He's definitely not.
I'm sorry.
Matt Taylor's definitely not afraid of IT.
no, she's talking about he's talking about the light board, not the select board.
Oh, sorry.
So on the light board, we, last November when we met with them, Travis Frank was in that meeting. And he clearly was showing an interest in it. And when I talked to the board in general, and I talked about that meeting that we had, I think the other two guys also showed an interest in the topic, in particular the topic of the security of their IT and their OT systems, and are concerned about it. I think they get that. I think it really is and maybe the fact that I was in the room talking to them, I think is what's leading them to wonder why appointing a member, since we care anyway, them appointing the members, or the select board appointing the members, or the school committee appointing members, why does that matter to them? I think that's where we're at right now. That's the impression that I got from that discussion. I don't think they're against it. I think it was really a question of, what would that necessarily do for them versus what's happening today anyway.
Well,
How long are the terms of the light board? Just
I don't remember. I remember it was
Okay.
kind of screwy the first time around because they had to get into a cycle.
Yeah, I think
But
it looks like 2 years or maybe 3 years.
I think they staggered something, and I think eventually it's going to get to something that's consistent. I remember reading about it when they first did it. It's like one person got a full term, the other one got a partial term, and another one got an even more partial term, and then that was going to work them into a cycle where everybody gets a full term, but a different one gets reelected every year or something like that.
I'm looking at the terms now, and they're the farthest one in the future ends in 2027. So I'm thinking it's 3 years after the
Yeah,
last election.
yeah, I think that's probably correct.
We just need to make sure it takes less than 3 years to convince people.
Yeah, right.
Dave,
Yeah.
did you get a sense of whether they have any sort of relationship, like the type of relationship they would have by having an ITAC representative with other committees in town? My guess would be no, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, that was a little convoluted. I'm wondering if they appoint representatives to any other committee in
They,
town.
I think they do not. In fact, I think they don't. I think that's part of the reason they're a little like, why would we do this? Doesn't the select board appoint everybody? I'll have to be honest with you. I think it was when I first asked Ellen about this, she said something to the effect that the select board is really your primary charting organization. It's just kind of nice that they're letting the school committee appoint some of the members and the library appoint a member and so on. Which I seem to remember Paul reacting to in a negative fashion.
I don't know. I don't know that if you read the town's bylaws that supports that reading
Yeah.
on Ellen's half. I think it's pretty clear. It's a jointly appointed committee that reports to the appointing committees, or is accountable to them anyway. So
I think I agree with Dan, that they've really got to want to do this rather than being pushed into doing this. That said, I mean, the light department is a very important agency within the town. I mean, they provide the energy source that we all need. The town needs, the school needs, the town town residents need. I would think that, this is I wouldn't say a no-brainer. It's certainly a no-cost thing for them to do, and to have a hand in, if nothing more, just voicing an opinion, as some of us do occasionally, as to whether they think something's appropriate, for a particular function within the town. And in their case, the function would be the light department. But, if they don't have any representatives to any other committees, if they don't feel the need, it's going to be hard to convince them, I suppose. Unless
Yep.
we keep mentioning to them what we do, then maybe they'll want to join us.
Right. Like I said, I think it makes sense to try to get on their agenda more often, and perhaps try to get with Craig and Robin more often, see where things are going. Offer to do it on their time rather than try to insist that Robin stay late and attend one of these, because he's, that's something that he's clearly not been too thrilled about doing over the last, year or so.
Well, it's very, very understandable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of them. We used to get them every month, and now, we don't get them, and I think that's not completely unreasonable.
This doesn't relate to the representative to our committee, but did the issue of a backup or an assistant to Robin who has an IT function primarily, did that ever come up in the discussions that you had with him? I mean,
We talked about that. We talked about that when we had the meeting with their IT provider, their IT security provider, in November.
I remember
I did not, in the 15 minutes that I had, we did not get into that level of detail, and back in whatever it was, in May 15th or whatever the date was.
Yeah, that to me is
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially now that, the town as a whole's IT, is,
Yeah.
is hurting for staff.
I remember there was a lot of pushback though. I think was it November when we all met?
Yeah.
And they were pretty much allergic to the idea of being able to hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
was that because of the cost or because
Yep.
of other?
Yeah,
Yep. Their sense is that they should be able to outsource all of it. And, I'm actually not totally against the idea of them outsourcing it as long as they actually do it. My sense is that they're not outsourcing enough, because Robin is got too much on his plate. And if they paid more for the other guys to do some of the more day-to-day stuff that Robin does, he could focus on figuring out what needs to be done to improve their security posture, yada, yada, yada. I mean, if you're going to have one guy, make that guy be your, higher level person worried about the big picture, and, and outsource the lower end functions. I don't love it, but I could live with that. My feeling though is Robin is, going around fixing people's desktops, and that's not, that's essentially the same problem the town had with Dave, right? He was the IT manager, but he was also a sysadmin. And, again, we'll talk more about that in the exec session.
yeah.
All right. Anything else on that one before I move on?
No.
All right. So I don't know if we want to get into too much into the next two, but I'll bring them up. We've been recording our meetings since Paul became the chair, or shortly after. Because Paul used to like to come into the room with his camera equipment and the big funky microphone, and set up the Google Hangouts and some other legacy technology that doesn't, whatever we had. And meetings were posted to YouTube. And when Dan and I took over as chair last fall, I've recorded all but one of the meetings. I forgot once. I apologize for that. But I do not have any means of uploading them to YouTube. I've shared them so that someone else can do it, but it doesn't appear to be happening. And
I think I shared the credentials with you, didn't I?
nope, no, we never figured out a secure way to do it. I'm open to doing it that way, and I'll do the uploads, but
Do you use a password manager?
I do. But it is password safe. It is not it's not, it's not one of the online ones.
Okay. I mean, I can,
You just write it on a piece of paper and give it to them.
Yeah, and I'll thread it after. I mean, we can figure something out. And
I could,
next time I walk the
do you use,
dog
like,
by your
Signal?
house.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I had shared that with you, but
No,
sorry
but we
if I
can.
didn't.
All right, so we'll take that offline, and then I'll get things going up to YouTube. That solves that problem. I'll ping you out. I'll ping you sometime after the meeting. Not tonight, but
Okay.
but sometime in the next week, so I don't forget.
Okay.
There's some text on the next topic, on the ITAC section of the town website. Some of it talks about Google Hangouts. We definitely need to get that changed. I'm inclined to change it to ITAC records all its meetings. Here's the YouTube link, and leave it at that. Beyond the stuff that it's from the charter, everything else is from the charter. Does that seem like a reasonable thing to do? I don't know if we even need to take a vote on it, but if we do, we can do that.
I mean, assuming we can, we have a good set way of uploading to YouTube. Yeah.
Well, that's what's going to happen when Paul gets me the credentials.
Okay.
Dave, I'm going to send you a link to the 1Password credentials, the credentials in 1Password, which I think you can access. I don't think you need a 1Password account.
Okay, worth a shot.
Yep.
So I'm asking everyone, do we need a vote on updating the website? I think it's just a fix. I don't think we've not voted to go out and ask them to do that before when we've noticed errors on the site. So I'm inclined to just do it.
I think that's fine.
Okay. All right. Subcommittees revisited. We want to punt that till another time, Dan, or do you want to?
I think so. We're still low on
Okay.
members here.
Okay. Any other
Unless everybody here tells me that it's a bad idea, then we can dispose of it immediately.
No, we just have to think about what we want to propose in the way of
Yeah.
It may not be the same as what we had before.
Well, if we're going to update the 21st century government, then because that was one of them.
The candidate that we talked to.
That's executive session, Dan.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say his eyes really lit up when we talked about the public health thing. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who's
I think I can say that.
What are we talking about? I'm sorry. I'm
just resurrecting some of the subcommittees.
Yeah, I think 21st century government would be a great one. I mean, we might engender we might create some new subcommittees to address, different topics. Right.
Yeah.
One could be, a hybrid meeting, that could be a whole subcommittee, looking at that. Not just town meeting, but just enabling hybrid government meetings.
We're talking about subjects that may have a lot of town-wide interest. Okay, one thing to consider, I think the police department would probably go along with this, is not only cybersecurity at the town level, but at the personal level. That's, I think, becoming something that more and more people are becoming concerned about.
Yep.
Okay.
But then
Any other? So I
you're
guess
right.
so.
People talk more.
Yeah, we need the larger. We definitely need the larger group to do that. Okay, so okay, that's good. I don't actually have to ask Ira to leave now. Any other business before we propose executive session?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I do, one of the subcommittees we might consider is, you know, as you may know, there's just been this whole issue with the tasers that the Belmont Police Department is acquiring from Axon. I'm not supposing we dig into that. However, I do think that the town should be looking very closely at the total cost of ownership for some of these subscription-based services that it is signing on to, and really have a way to make informed decisions about what the long-term costs of those things are versus other options where there aren't these kind of, you know, lock you in subscriptions where, you know, the vendor is holding and our data and has a monopoly on service and maintenance and repair and forcing us, you know, end-of-lifing products and forcing us to buy new ones, even though, you know, the products themselves are perfectly functional, which is what's happening with the Axon Taser 7s, which work perfectly well and are only 3 years.
Chromebooks, right?
The same thing with Chromebooks, right? And you know, so it might be very useful for us to help the town understand the implications of some of these agreements, tying agreement. Oh, wow. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I thought I lost you, but I didn't. There's just another window popping up. And kind of help guide them through that. So, I mean, that would be one. Again, and I don't think we necessarily need to dive deep into the taser issue, but this bigger issue of, you know, the growth of these kind of subscription-based connected device ecosystems is one that could have very dire implications for the town in the long term financially if we're not careful.
Something like tech total cost of ownership subcommittee or something like that.
Well,
yes,
I mean,
yes,
call it what we call it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, smart purchasing subcommittee, right? Where we're at least aware of, you know, and we can evaluate products based on issues like total cost of ownership, you know, or whether we actually own them at all, you know. You know, in the case of tasers, our hands are tied because they really have a monopoly. There really are no other options for the town. If we want to buy tasers, we kind of have to use Axon. But in other areas, I don't think that's true. I think that there are meaningful choices and probably options for the town that, you know, this might not be the sexiest vendor, but if you look at the long-term cost of ownership, it's going to be much more advantageous for the town. So that's kind of what came to mind as town meeting was going through this whole taser thing is, you know, we're the type of committee that is actually thinking about these issues long before other people are. And
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, your analysis at town meeting was completely right about what Axon is doing and, you know, what that's locking the town into. And at the same time, like, I think the kind of staffing and know-how and bandwidth that's required to actually reject situations like that and take care of stuff on your own is more than a lot of these times. It's like sort of trapped into it because unless you have a staff of people who can handle like doing all the updates themselves and patching and blah, 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 and, you know, like keeping track of the hardware and stuff like that, then data curation and stuff, you're kind of locked.
Yeah, but the cost for us is, you know, that contract costs us $40,000 a year.
Yeah, which is a person, right? Like at some level, right? So that,
$40,000 a year. And that's not for the hardware. That's just for the service. That's just for the
It's a-
warranty. So
yeah, so that's a
that's
there-
that's an FTE right there, or
Yeah.
2/3 of
there's
one,
real analysis to go on there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I feel like, with Axon, we've got 5 years now where we're going to sign on to this contract. In 5 years from now, I would like for us, Belmont and other towns as well, to have other choices. Whether that's, what, we figured out that we can just maintain these ourselves, or even better, some law's been passed that makes what they're doing, illegal. Or and
Yeah.
enforces there to be market choice and competition and all the things that all the benefits that flow from that. But absent that, which isn't likely to happen, having some way for us to say, we're not going to pay the $500,000 you're asking us for the next 5-year contract. We're going
So
to
so
go
it's
a
getting
different route.
late. I'm sorry, Paul, but it's getting late, and I think we're not going to solve that here.
No,
I
I'm just throwing it
appreciate-
out there as a.
yeah, and I think that's
I'm
right.
just
I
throwing it out
agree.
there as a possible subcommittee.
And you're right, exactly. And now and so it's there. The idea is out there. Anything else before I make a move to executive session? All right, I'll make a motion that we go to executive session to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto. I need a second.
Second.
Aye. Dan. Paul.
Aye.
Okay, we eyes have it. Give me a second to turn off all the recording stuff. Where's